All right, so this is DES-244, and what I'm going to be doing tonight is working on week 2 assignment, which would be creating the die line rough layout. My goal is to actually walk you through the process of producing this die line layout the correct way and explaining to you as much as I possibly can about the techniques that I use to do it, and hopefully show you how simple it can be to actually make this happen. Before I do that, though, I'm going to walk through the instructions of the assignment and talk a little bit about that because it might actually help to clarify things a little bit. So the first thing that it tells you is that you're going to create a die line that meets printing standards for packaging or package creation. So basically what the die line does is it gives the printer the actual shape of the piece that they're going to be punching out of the larger piece of paper that's going to become the package, box, whatever it's going to be. It involves creating the actual die line, the actual fold lines, and the thing that's known as the bleed line. And the bleed line essentially is a line that goes beyond the die line, and any piece of art or color that bleeds off of any particular panel or goes to the actual edge of the die line has to go beyond to the bleed line in order for it to work properly. So those are the three elements. In a minute, we'll go into Adobe Illustrator and I'll show you visually what I'm talking about. You're going to identify 4 challenges that address a new package design. You're going to create and develop an original concept that targets the end user. This is important. Last week, what you failed to do, Emily, was you failed to give me some sketches of your design. I didn't get any rough sketches. So I did grade your submission, and the part of the submission that you supplied me with was fine, but you're missing the sketches. So I need you to give me some sketches so I can give you full credit. I should mention that. So the reason I'm mentioning that at this point is because number 3, create and develop an original concept that targets the end users. Essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating from your die line, which I'm going to be working on tonight, you're going to create a rough concept of your package, the graphics that are going to go on your package. Okay? So it's very important that you understand this. It isn't the finished package. It's a rough. It's just basically the beginning aspects of putting your elements into position, trying to figure out what you're going to have on the front panel, what you're going to have on the side panels, what you're going to have on the back, are you going to have something on the top, so on and so forth. It's going to be color background. What are you going to have? So that's essentially what this is going to be. So it's 2 parts. Number 1 is to create the actual die line, the folds and the bleeds, and then you'll use the same piece of art and you'll go ahead and you'll create an original concept, essentially a mock-up of your package, the package that you are going to be creating next week. When you submit it to me, I will critique that and I will give you specific information about what I think you could do to make it better or whatever. I can't really tell you what I'll say because I have to wait and see what you submit. But basically, I will critique that. All right? So now there's a little background here. Whether you're creating a complex package design or making a small cutout of a simple shape of a box, to accurately produce the piece and to have it die cut, the printer will require a die line that meets the printing standards for package creation. So what we're going to be doing tonight is accurate. I mean, I'm going to go through it step by step with you, and I'm going to show you how Adobe Illustrator makes it very easy to do this. It's not a difficult thing once you understand the techniques that are employed in Illustrator to make it easy. It can be very difficult if you make it difficult, But once you understand Adobe Illustrator and all the different things that you could use, and you don't need to use too many different things in Adobe Illustrator to do this. I mean, I used basic shapes. I used my pen tool, my add anchor point tool, my delete anchor point tool. I used the Pathfinder panel. What else? The stroke panel. There's not that many things that I actually had to do to make this work, and it happens very quickly and very efficiently once you understand this. So the reason that I'm doing this demonstration tonight is so that I can show you these techniques so that you'll see and you'll understand how you can employ these techniques to do things like this. That's really what this is all about. I mean, if I left you alone, you probably could struggle along and make yourself a die line for this. But by me showing you how I would go about doing it, I'm absolutely certain that there are going to be things that I will do that you will learn and understand and find easier ways to go. All right? In the package industry, a die line serves as a package template that ensures proper layout for the final printed product. A typical scenario is a client handing a box to the designer saying, I would like you to recreate this exact package but with our brand and product on it. The designer can then take the package and deconstruct it. Essentially what that means is take the box, carefully open the box back up, lay it down, and start measuring the different panels and understanding how the thing is created and how the thing ultimately folds up. We're not really going to do that, but we're going to take a look at a sample that's been supplied to us, and we have a bunch of information, numbers and sizes and things that we're going to actually use to create our mock-up, our package, our die line. For example, if you took a cereal box, laid it out flat, you would essentially be looking at the die line. So really, that's what you're looking at is when you take a box, open it up flat, you're looking at the die line. If you look at the graphics on the other side, everywhere that you see graphics go to the edge of that die line, you know that there was a bleed line beyond that, and that color or that image went to that bleed line. These are the things that you need to understand so that when you go to work on these things, you'll do it correctly. The next step is to create the die line using Adobe Illustrator. Believe me when I tell you, there is no better application than Adobe Illustrator for creating a die line like this. It makes it incredibly easy, and it does a beautiful, and I mean exacting job of doing this. When I get done making mine, it's going to be on the money, and I'll take my time with it. I got 2 hours to do this. I'll go slow, and I'll make sure that you see everything that I'm doing, and I'll try to explain it as best I can. If you were here, it would be easier because I'd have you here and I could have a conversation with you as I go along. But since you're not, I'm just going to go through the steps. I'll go through it slowly as I can, and I'll try to make as many points along the way as I can think of. Once the die line is built, the designer begins to produce an original concept by creating rough layouts that target the end user. So you did some very rough layouts last week. You didn't actually, but I want you to, and I want you to submit them. But what you're going to do is, after you've created this die line, you're going to go in and you're going to modify that die line, create a rough using the elements that are going to go on your package. The purpose of this stage is to identify packaging challenges such as clarity and simplicity, authenticity, addressing the target audience, creating a brand image that is highly recognizable and offers shelf impact. This is all very important stuff. The important thing to understand is, and one of the most important things of that statement is shelf impact. You have to understand that your package is going to go on a shelf that's surrounded by products that are similar products to the product that you're putting on that shelf. So it's up to you as the designer to really think about how you're going to produce something that will capture the attention of that target audience. The target audience is anybody that's in that particular aisle where that product is, that's considering buying that particular product, yours as opposed to somebody else's. Very important. that you understand this and think about it. As a matter of fact, in my own experience creating packaging and things like this, I generally go to stores. I generally really physically go to stores, and I walk down the aisles, and I take my camera and I take photographs of some of the packaging that I see there, because it helps me to be able to look back on this and say to myself, okay, so what's going to be surrounding my package? What kind of colors am I seeing? What kind of graphics? How is the type being employed? You know, all these things are things that you think about when you create a package like this. It's really important. It's also time to address and apply client feedback to solve the challenges of new package design aimed at appealing to the target audience. So what that particular statement is essentially saying is, you don't have a client, you have me. I'm your client. And what's going to happen is you're going to do your die line, and I'm going to tell you whether your die line is right or not. And you're going to create a package mock-up. You're going to give me a rough mock-up, and it doesn't have to be finished, but it does have to be a presentation of information that's going to go on your packaging. And I'm going to discuss that with you and tell you what I think the shortcomings are, what you could probably add to make it better. Whatever I find, I will discuss with you as if I were a client. And this is important for you to understand. When you're a graphic designer, every piece of work that you do is going to be critiqued by somebody. And nobody's trying to be mean. Nobody's trying to be cruel. You know, I have a goal in mind, and that is to give you the opportunity to make the best piece that you can possibly make. In a way, the goal is the same if you were working with a client. The client ultimately wants you to create the best that you could possibly create. However, the difference is you're not going to get a grade on it like you are with me. You're going to get paid, and they're going to produce this project, this package, and it's going to sell a product, and hopefully it'll be successful. If it's successful, then you'll be successful and your client will want to work with you. If it's not successful, then what happens generally is you fail, and your client will probably drift away from you. So these are important things for you to understand. I'm going to close this thing. Stop the video. There we go. Okay, so prompt. For this two-part assignment, again, like I said, two-part assignment, you're going to lay the groundwork for your product package design by creating a die line. That's the first thing. That's what we're going to be dealing with tonight. I'm going to spend the bulk of tonight creating my die line. And the reason I'm going to take time doing it is because I want to show you how I go about doing it. I want to teach you some techniques that are really handy in Adobe Illustrator, which is a great program, and it's a program that you really should learn how to use, and it's very fun once you do learn how to use it. You're going to create this package creation using Adobe Illustrator, and then you're going to create a rough layout using the strongest concept identified from client feedback. So see, here's the problem. Since you didn't submit anything to me last week, I have nothing to feedback. I have no feedback for you. So I need you to give me a couple of sketches for last week so I can grade you on it. And you'll also have to just go ahead and start preparing a rough layout without my client feedback, because I didn't receive anything from you to feedback. I hope you understand. All right, so this is the same product you did your mood board from week 1 assignment. All right, now, of course, it looks to me like you chose Chateau Vineyards. And so what I did, I actually originally built Wild Bill Gourmet Hot Sauce. But what I decided to do with you is I decided that I would rebuild Chateau Vineyards along with you. So I'm going to be working on Chateau Vineyards, the box for Chateau Vineyards. And of course, you're going to download the specifications here for that, as I did. Okay? So part 1, the die line. You're going to make the artboard large enough to support the die line. That's no big deal. You're going to create a new layer, and you're going to label it die line. Create another layer and label it artwork. Well, that's a little simplistic. when I actually get into mine, I'm going to show you how I did my layers. I've actually got a few layers instead of just 2 like this. And I think you'll find it's a lot more valuable if you use a couple of more layers. I will explain all that to you, though, once we get into Adobe Illustrator. You're going to position the artwork layer beneath the die line layer. When creating your die line, use the industry standard visuals. Cut lines are solid. Cut lines meaning the die line. No fill, and a dashed line indicates fold. So wherever you have a fold, you're going to create a dashed line. And it also, make note that a bleed is also required. All right. Now, this is all very simple, and I've actually done it. And I'm going to start off by showing you my finished piece. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to recreate my finished piece so you could see exactly how I went about doing it. And hopefully the process of me rebuilding mine will teach you a couple of things that you probably don't know or have not come across yet. These things here are very important. And as a matter of fact, I've actually copied them and pasted them onto my piece. They're so important. The die line is a closed vector path. Very important for you to keep this in mind. Your die line is a closed vector path. Your cut lines have a 0.5 stroke weight. The fold lines have a 0.5 stroke weight with a dash of 4 and a line, a two-point gap space. The bleed area is 0.125 beyond the trim edge or the die line. That means outside of the die line, 1/8 of an inch, 0.125 inch. Die lines do not require crop marks. The reason they don't require crop marks is because they are complex shapes, and the die line is, in fact, part of the registration process. Once you have completed the die line, lock the die line layer to prevent accidental change of the die line. Again, what's most important about this are those bullet points right there. And now, this is the other part that you really need to understand so that you get this done right. Because obviously last week you didn't understand it. I didn't get any sketches. So there's a part 2. It's a rough layout. Now it's time to refine your thumbnail sketches by creating a rough layout. Again, you have no thumbnail sketches so far. So if you could do some thumbnail sketches, please do that. I will then upgrade your final submission for week 1 and give you full credit. Rough layouts are larger and more refined than thumbnail sketches and should be done to scale and the correct size of your die line. So essentially what you're going to do is you'll make a duplicate of your die line piece and you'll build your sketch onto that duplicate. You want to keep your original die line intact because you're going to submit that to me for grading. And then this is the second piece that you're going to do. You could maybe copy and paste that die line to another artboard within the same file, and then you could submit it as a PDF. That you could do. For the purpose of this stage, the purpose of this stage is to work on your best design concept so the client can see a more refined solution. So what I need you to do is I need you to start thinking about the 360-degree aspects of this package. And I need you to come up with graphics that are going to fit all the way around the box. What's going to be on the front? What's going to be on the back? What's going to be on either side? What's going to be on the top? I gotta make a point here, and that is when a client gives you a project like this, they really don't want blank panels. They want you to use the sides. They want you to use the back. They want you to use the front. They want stuff on all sides. I mean, and when I say stuff, they want valuable things. I mean, you can put a write-up about the product. You can put the logo on the front. You could put type on the front. You could put a graphic of a glass of wine, a person drinking a glass of wine, a bottle of wine. There's all kinds of things that you could do on the outside of the box. But, I mean, they don't want a box that has no graphics on it. I have been through this course with a number of different classes, and I guarantee you I always have students come to me with boxes that have very little elements on it. And I can't, in all honesty, accept a package that, a box that has no graphics. You really have to have some graphics. All right, so you need to think about that. And what might be a good idea is to do a Google search for wine boxes and take a look at what comes up in the wine boxes and get a look at some of the elements that you'll find on the wine boxes. Because again, you need something on all surfaces. The bottom surfaces, obviously, you don't need anything on that, but you should have something on the top. You should have something on the front, the back, and both sides. Okay? And there are some specific required elements that we also have here. Let me see if I can open them up right now. Give me 1 second here. Hold on. Let me get this Microsoft Word open, and I'll see if I can open this information up. Let's see here. Let's see. Chateau Vineyard required box information. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so here we go. Look, the Chateau Vineyard wine box. Wine type, mandatory. Example, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Merlot, Pinot Noir. Whatever your wine is, you have to have a name for it. Okay? This here, I'm not exactly sure. I guess this is a link that takes you to different wine types of wines, and that might help you to actually, let me click on it and see what it does actually do, because now that I think about it, I really didn't look at this. Types of wines. All right, so this is a quick reference. All right, so here's the thing. These are good because, like, here's Riesling, for instance, just as an example. Food wine pairing. Dry versions go well with fish, chicken, pork dishes. Districts, classic German grape, typical taste, varietal wine, Rieslings. So what this does is gives you some information about Riesling. Here's Chardonnay. Gives you some information about Chardonnay. It's very possible that you could maybe grab a little bit of this copy to put on the side of your box. Okay, so again, that's possibly why this is here. All right, but let's get out of here. Let's go back to this for a minute. All right, so the brand name, wine producer is mandatory. Obviously, you've got the logo, and that's your brand, so you're going to use that. The vintage year designates the years the grapes were harvested. For example, 2012 estate bottled. Again, you can put that if you want, or you can make it another year, 2017 estate bottle, or whatever you want. Name and address of bottler are mandatory. Produced and bottled by Chateau Vineyards, Napa Valley, California. So why don't you just use that? See, it's not that hard. Vineyard designation, Chateau Estate Vineyard. Percentage of alcohol by volume. Alcohol, 12% by volume. You could put that just like that. Net contents mandatory, 750 milliliter. You could put that in. So you could have on one side, say, alcohol 12% by volume, and then 750 milliliter on the other side of the front or the back. And then contains sulfites, mandatory, contains sulfites. And government warning. Here's your government warning. This must appear probably on the side or on the back of one of the panels. It's up to you. Definitely don't put it on the front, but on the side or on the back of the panels, that government warning should appear. And the government warning does not have to be big. It just has to be there. It can be very tiny, but it just has to be there. You need to put a barcode, and there's a barcode generator right here. Okay, it's very simple. You just click on this. It'll take you to the barcode generator, and you could actually go in and build yourself a barcode generator. And it doesn't have to be a complete, accurate barcode generated barcode. It can be just any old barcode that you want to use, as far as I'm concerned. As long as you got a barcode on there to show that there does get a barcode, you're fine. So now here's some additional information. Consider this information the romance information that was supplied to you by the client. Tucked in the heart of the Rhone Valley, Chateau Vineyards is a small family-owned winery, handcrafting premium wines. The Graham family has been making wines for 3 generations. Family tradition, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, that is your romance copy. That has to appear. So really, that stuff has to appear. It's very critical that you understand this and utilize this information on the panels, okay? And then, of course, you can come in here and you could use this as well. All right, let's see here. So the purpose of this stage is to work on your best design concepts so the client can see a refined solution. Even though a rough layout may look final, it's not your finished art at this point. The stage is used to identify package challenges, clarity, simplicity, authenticity, dressing the audience, creating a brand image that is highly recognizable with shelf impact. Rough layouts are also used to explore additional creative approaches suggested from client feedback to create a composition that is not only pleasing to the eye, but also critically supports and communicates the message of the product. I've been doing this work for easily 46 years. And I promise you, I have yet to come across a client who accepted any design that I ever produced for them in its absolute first stages. Every design that I work on is a challenge, and the challenge is a series of events that take place between me and the stakeholders, the people who are involved in the process of selling, marketing, creating, whatever, this particular product. And we all put our minds together and we work on this to come up with the best possible solution. I am essentially their hands, and they are my eyes. They tell me what they want. I fight them for it, or I support them with it, depending upon how well they come up with the solution, and I execute those solutions. So you just realize it's important that you realize this is part of the process. You know, it is a negotiation. It is something which is a development. It is not something that you can expect to just do right the first time and have somebody say to you, oh, gee, that's perfect. You know, I'm not saying it's never happened, but it certainly is not the way it normally happens. Okay, so really it's just kind of important for you to understand that. Use the correct size of die line. So this is what's important here, is that there are numbers given to you. There are sizes given to you. You really need to do this the correct way. You have to look at those sizes. You can't just go in there and whip together any old thing that you want. You really need to go in and you need to set this up properly. Okay, I'm going to actually do it. Shortly, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to start working on this. And I'm going to create it to size and scale and proportion. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure every little aspect of it is correct. I'll try to do it slowly so you can see how I'm doing it. And hopefully, as I do it, my explanation and the act of me doing it will be clear enough that you can say to yourself, well, gee, I understand why he's doing that. That makes sense. Because that's ultimately what I'm trying to do, is trying to do this in a way that would make sense to you so that you'll learn something, but also you'll have an approach that will make it easy for you to go in and do this when you actually get to doing it. If you've already done this thing, I would really expect you to take a critical look at what you've done and make sure that when you submit it to me, it's done correctly, because I will fault you if it isn't correct. I mean, it's just as simple as that. You will be faulted if you're in the real workplace. So, I mean, this is as close to the real workplace as you're getting right now. So I'm not going to just accept anything that comes in. It's critical that you do this right. I am going to go in and show you how I did it, and I did it right, and you should do it right, okay? So create rough layout using strongest concept from client feedback. Add color to your logo. You download your week 1 assignment for your final color scheme direction. Include all design elements and required information for each product. All design elements and required information placed on an artwork layer. If your chosen product requires a nutritional fact label, week 3 assignment for information on those. We don't have to worry about that right now. All boxes require a barcode to be generated in order to sell them. So you really need to put a barcode on this, and the barcode usually would go on the side or the back panel. It would not go on the front. Chose code, actually it's telling you, choose code 128 standard, enter 8 numbers and click to create barcode. You should find this to be fairly easy. Choose EPS output in medium format and download. EPS is encapsulated postscript file. Now, why it's asking you to make an EPS is because the barcode that you're generating will be based on a piece of vector art. And when you're working with vector art, you generally choose EPS when you're going to be printing something, encapsulated postscript. It's a very common form of export for print from Adobe Illustrator. Okay, I don't think you have any questions about the submission requirements. You name your file like this, and you're going to be submitting a PDF, okay? And then there's your rest of your information. So I basically have gone through this information. I hope I did it well enough that you understand what's going on. Again, you can always send me an email or give me a call if you have any questions. So now I'm going to move on to my die line wine box. Okay, so here is my finished die line wine box. Now, I told you that I did a little bit more complex layering than it's telling you to do. So let me start off by explaining this. So I have this information over here. This is the information that I'm given, and it gives me the wine box specifications. Don't ignore these specifications, and don't try to use this thing, okay? You have to build it. And I'm going to show you how to build. I build mine. This is the one that I did right here. I built this. And it doesn't take very long to do it. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to show you how I did it. And I really believe that if you watch how I do this, and if you follow along with me, you'll have one that looks exactly like mine, and you'll be in good shape. But keep in mind, I did use all of this information to create this. Now, the one thing that I did was I put that sample on its own layer. Now, I have some guides. I created some guides that I use. See the 4 little guides? That's my gridding. And the only reason I'm using these is because I wanted to identify my panels. Okay, these are my identification of my panels. I have an original box that this was the original box that I created. So let me hide this and show you. This is my original, well, actually, that's the wrong one. There we go. That's my original box that I created before I actually went in and turned it into a die line. That's my die line. That's what a die line should look like. It should look like one continuous piece that wraps around the entire box. That's what a proper die line looks like. Then, added to that are the folds. There are your folds. It folds there, it folds there, it folds here, here, here. Oh, and by the way, I missed, there's one appears to be missing here. Let's see. Yeah, it appears like I missed one. I believe I did. So let me show you how easy it is. Edit, copy, edit, paste in place. Wait a minute. What happened here? Edit, undo. Wait a minute. Let me try it again. Edit, copy. Edit, paste in place. There we go. Now let's see if I can move it over. There we go. Now I'm going to move this over to here because that's also a fold. There we go. That should do it. All right, let's hide my guide layers. There we go. Okay, so that's a fold. That's a fold. That folds. That's that. Those are your 4 panels. That would be probably your front. That would be the side. That would be the back. That would be the other side. This fold here is a glue tab. That's what this is. And these are the top folding pieces that close in, and this folds over, and that folds over, and it seals the top. And then the bottom is this little mechanism down here which kind of folds together and creates the bottom. All right. The important elements are the bleeds. Check it out. There's the bleeds. The bleed's in red, and the bleed is 1/8 of an inch beyond the trim or die line. Let's see, where are we at here? There's the die line. Okay, the trim or the die line, there it is. And then the folds, there are the folds. Okay? And I have them on 3 layers. I have a bleed layer, a fold layer, a die line layer. I actually have a guide layer, and I have the layer that's called the sample. And the only reason I have the sample is because I put the sample in here so that when I build this thing, I can refer back to this, and it probably will make it a little easier for you to understand what I'm doing. Okay? So that's my finished, this is my finished die line. This is part 1 of the process of the assignment for this week. Okay? That's what I'm going to be working on from this point forward. All right? So let's go to my start. Here's my start, and I'm going to actually build this thing. I have to set up my layers. So I have my sample layer. I'm going to create my next layer, which will be my guide layer. There's my guide layer. All right, and I have a box layer, which I'm going to move up, put that there. And then I'm going to create 3 more layers. Okay, and this layer right here is going to be my folds. Okay, and my die line, die layer, and this is my bleed. Okay, so in the end, I will place my guides on this layer. I will build my box on this layer. When I get my box totally built, I'm then going to apply my folds onto that layer. I'm going to create my die on that layer, and I'll execute my bleed on that layer. And I will have, when I get done with that, I will have this. I will have that. Okay? So there we go. All right, so now, how do I go about doing this? First of all, wine box specifications. Just look at these specifications and get familiar with them. You have front, sides, and back panels. All 4 of them. All 4 of them. They're 4 inches wide by 12.4 inches tall. Not quite 12.5 inches. So it'd be 12.5 would be 12.5. So 12.4, just slightly under 12.5 inches tall by 4 inches wide. The top panel, there's 2 parts to the top panel. There's the top panel itself, which is 4 by 4. And the reason that is because if you have 4, 4, 4, and 4, you have a 4-inch cube. And that thing would have to be 4 by 4. So the top panel's 4 by 4. The top tuck flap is 4 inches wide by 1 inch deep. That's what that top tuck flap is right there. Okay? The top side flaps are 4 inches by 1.5. And the side glue flap is 0.125 by 12.4. That's only 1.25 inches wide, that glue flap, okay? The bottom flaps are going to be 4 by 4, and then there are special cutouts which we have to create here, okay? And while they look really intimidating, all right, let me see if I can get this thing to go in the direction I want. Oh, crap. Hold on. Yeah, let me move this up. Let me get this up here. There we go. While they look very intimidating, right there, looks pretty intimidating, I absolutely assure you it's not, all right? And I'm going to do it. I'm going to actually do this whole thing in a moment. And I think by that point, you'll probably see what I'm talking about. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deal with the main body of my package, which are the 4, look here. There we go. The front, sides, and back panels, those 4 right there. Now, there's 2 ways I could do this. Here's the first way. Let's go view, zoom out. Okay, the first way is by creating a panel. Oh, and by the way, just so that you know, this thing is set, there we go, here we go. Let me get to the box. Let's move that up to the box layer. There we go, that's on the box layer. All right, so now we're on the box layer. I can lock the sample layer. I can do this. I can go edit, copy, edit, paste in place, and I can then move this thing over like this, okay? And I can create these 4 panels, see? And I can just butt them up against one another, and I can copy these both and then make 4 panels. But there's a better, easier way to do this. And again, you have to understand, my goal here is to teach you things. My goal is not to get this done. If I wanted to get this done, I'd get this done in a half hour. I've got an hour and a half here, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you as many things as I possibly can about this program that are of value to you. So what I want to do is I want to show you a better way to go about doing this. So let me go back there. Let me delete this. We don't want this. Okay, delete it. Oh, do I get the wrong one? I get the wrong. Yeah, let me click on that and delete it. There we go. All right, we want this guy right here. And by the way, we want it to be with a fill and a stroke, fill of none and a stroke of black right now. That's all we want, okay? All right, so let's go back over and let's just quickly see. It's got to be 4 by 12 and 12.4. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to take this thing, since there's 4 panels, we know that 4 by 4 is 12 inches, right? 16 inches. 16 inches. So what I want to do is I want to go to where I have properties. And if you take a look in my properties panel, and by the way, just in case you don't know, you go to the window menu and you go down to here, and there's your properties panel. I'm not going to open it because I already got it open. But the properties panel shows me the position in X and Y space, but it also shows me the width and the height of the object that I have selected. So this is my object that's selected, and it's currently 4 inches wide by 12.4 inches tall. Now the height is perfect, but the width is not perfect. So what I want to do is I want to change the width from 4 to 16, because 4 times 4 is 16, right? So I'm going to change this from 4 inches to 16. And then I'm going to click in the height, and there you go. See what happens? I now have my 16 inches. Those are my 4 panels right there. And I'm sure at this point you're saying to yourself, well, how am I supposed to figure out, you know, these 4 panels here? How am I supposed to see that? How am I supposed to understand that? That's where my guides come into play. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock that layer for a second, and I'm going to choose the guide layer. And I have my rulers out. You go to the window menu, go to the view menu and go to rulers and show rulers. I have my rulers out. I'm going to drag from my vertical ruler, I'm going to drag a guide out, and I'm going to drop it right on the edge of my box, right there. It's a little hard to get it where I want it, right there. Okay? Then I'm going to drag another guide out, and I'm going to drop it over on that edge right there. So I have a guide here and I have a guide there, both of which are on the guide layer. Okay? Now I'm going to just come out here and I'm just going to drag out 3 more guides. Doesn't matter where I put them. Just going to drag out 3 guides. I'm going to go to the view menu. I'm going to go to guides, and I have my guides, I believe, are unlocked, so I don't have to do anything. I'm going to select my guides. Yes, okay, so my guides are unlocked, and I can select them. Can you see when I select them, they go green? Look at the highlighting. Look at the highlighting. The guide layer is green. So when I deselect it, they go blue. When I select it by marqueeing, they go green. Okay? Now what I want to do is I want to distribute these lines equally all the way across my panel. And when I do that, I will establish the 4 panels, the front, the side, the back, and the other side. So how do I do that? I'm going to go to this panel right here. I'm going to go to my Align panel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Distribute Objects, and with the 4 of them selected, I'm going to come over to this one, Horizontal, Distribute, Center. Now watch when I click that. You see how they automatically zip right into position? So now I have my 4 panels established. That's a 2-step process. Step number 1 is to just make the larger area of my overall panel, and I make it for 4 panels instead of 1. I make it for 4, and then using guides, I grid out my 4 panels. So now I know exactly where the front is. This would theoretically be the front. This would be a side. That would be a back. That would be the other side. Okay? So 2 steps, and I have everything I need right here using the Align panel and using the Properties panel and modifying the width. 2 very simple steps to do that. Okay? All right, so let me hide this Layers panel. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open up a couple of these guys. I'm going to be needing my Direct Selection tool shortly. So if I come over to my Direct Selection tool, there's a little tear out. And if I sit on that and let go, it pops it out. And I'm going to bring it over to here. Okay? This guy here I'm going to put back in here for a minute. And I'm going to be using my pen tool as well. So I'm going to come to the tear out of the pen tool, and I'm going to pull that out as well. So now I have some tools sitting out here that I will be using shortly. All right, so now that I have my basic shape worked out for my for my overall body. What I have left to do, let's go and take a look at my mock-up. I have to build this stuff at the top, that on the side, and that across the bottom. The top is the easier part. This side is easy. This is the tricky part. So let's get the top done and the side done, and then we'll do the hard stuff at the end. All right, so the easiest thing is I actually have a shape correctly made right here. This shape right here, and it's on the, let's go to my layers. Where do my layers go here? No, it's the artboard. Yeah, let me go to my layers. Here we are. There. Nope, where's my layers? Oh, there they are. All the way down. How did I get down there? Bring that up to the top. There we go. All right, so it's on the sample layer. So let me click on that, and let me bring that up to the box layer, which is locked. So let me bring it up to the box layer. There we go. Okay, now I can lock that, and I can lock the guides. So my guide layer is locked. I can no longer interact with my guides, and my background, that's good, but this is not. This is locked. So I can play with this, and I can play with this. So what I do here, all right, what I did here was this. I just simply came in, and I got this tool right here. Oh, I'm sorry, the rectangle tool. I came out, and I clicked, and I get my rectangle dialog box. And all I did was I set the width and the height to 4 inches. I'm going to hit cancel because I already did this. Okay, I set the width and the height to 4 inches because my top panel, if you look right here, the top panel is 4 by 4. So I need for my top panel, and I want to be on my box layer, my top panel has to be 4 by 4. So now it's 4 by 4. So what I'm going to do is move these out of the way, move them down here. I'm going to copy this, edit copy, edit paste, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully select it, and I'm going to, come on, there we go. Move it in position right here, get it in position, and let me move it up until it's where it belongs to be, right there, like that. And you want to make sure that this top slightly overlaps the bottom. You want to make sure that it just ever so slightly overlaps the bottom. Kind of important that you do that, and I'll explain that better to you later. All right, now let's go edit, paste in place again. And now I'm going to drag this guy here. This is the one that I think I pasted in place. Yep. Nope. Control Z. Hold on. Edit, copy, edit, paste. Just paste. There we go. And then bring this up, and let's move that into position. And once I get it into position, which I think it is right now, let me move this thing up to here. Move it up to about the middle for now. Okay, let's go back to the, all right, now the top panel, the top tuck panel is 4 inches wide by 1 inch. So 4 inches wide by 1 inch. So that's gonna, this is gonna end up being the top tuck panel. So I'm going to come back to my properties, and I'm going to come to my height this time, not my width. My width is going to stay 4, but my height is going to be 1 inch. So I'm going to change it from 4 to 1, and then I'll click in the width to make it happen, and then I'll close that back up. And now I can just take that top tuck panel, and I can move that top tuck panel up until it's just slightly overlapping the other one. So now if you take a look, I have my 4 center pieces. I have my top and my top tuck panel. The only thing I don't have correct on this is I don't have the taper that you see there. Now to taper this, that is why I have the direct selection tool out. Because if I click on the direct selection tool, I can come over here and I can click there, and I can select that one anchor point alone. Take a look at those anchor points, and you'll see that the 3 that I didn't click are white in the center. The one that I did click is red. And also you'll notice that there's a little circle that shows next to the one that I clicked. That's telling me that that particular anchor point, that corner point, is active. And if I use the arrow keys, if you look on your keyboard in the lower right-hand corner, you've got an up arrow, a down arrow, a right arrow, and a left arrow. I'm going to start clicking the right arrow, and look at what it's doing. I'm going to click this about 20 times and bring that in about like that. And I guess I got one duplicate there. Let me get rid of that duplicate. Evidently I got an extra one up there. I'm not exactly sure how I did that. Okay, there we go. All right, so you see now how I've tapered that? Now I'm going to do the same thing again on the other side. I'm going to get the direct selection tool. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to use the right arrow key, and I'm going to start right arrow keying that over until I get something that looks about like that. Now I should have been counting the numbers on this, and I wasn't. I was too busy talking to you. So I did this visually, but you will basically do it like maybe about between 12 and 20 times to get something that looks like that, okay? So there's how you create that right there. All right, so we now have the center panels done. We have the top panel done and the top tuck panel done. Now what we need to do is we need to create these two shorter panels. Those are your top side flaps. Those are 4 inches by 1.5. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go edit, paste, and we paste another one of these things down, and we're going to move this thing over. Let's move this thing, if I can get it to move. Hold on, I got to get the regular selection tool. There we go. Come on. There we go. Okay. I'm going to bring it over to here. And then what I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to open up the Properties panel. Okay? Now, the Properties panel, I can't really see what I'm doing, so let me move this over. The Properties panel, the side flaps are 1.5. Let me make sure I have that right. Top side flaps, 1.5. Correct. So the width is going to be 4 inches. I'll leave that alone. It's the height. It's 1.5. So it's 1.5. And then when I click on the width, watch what happens to that square. There it is. There's the height of my top tuck panel. And what I'm going to do with that is, whoops. Okay, I have to actually click on it one time. Let's go. Hold on. There we go. Okay, now I can click on it and I can move it up. Move it up until it's just slightly overlapping the other, about like that. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get close this down for 1 second. I'm going to click on my direct selection tool, and I'm going to click there, and I'm going to click there. So I got both of those done, selected, and I'm going to actually just move it over a couple of times. And then I'm going to, if you look at this, I have the same kind of a deal going here where I have that angle. So what I'm going to do is go back over to here. Once again, with the direct selection tool, click on that upper corner. What you're looking for is you're looking for these guys to be white, this one to be white, but this one becomes red because it's selected, and you'll see the circle that's there. And what I'm going to do with that is, again, with my arrow keys in the lower right-hand corner of my keyboard, I'm going to use the left arrow, and I'm going to push that over about that many times. And now if you take a look at this, you'll see that it looks just like that right there. Okay? Now, it's very simple to duplicate this over here. The way to do it is to get the regular selection tool and just select this thing. And then you're going to come over here to where it says rotate, and if you click and hold, you'll see also with rotate, you'll see reflect. And I'm going to click on the reflect tool, and I'm going to come out here and click, or double click to get the reflect tool. And I have mine reflecting vertically. And if you take a look, it's turned it around. If I click on copy right now, I make a duplicate. So now I actually have a duplicate that I just made, and it's reflected in the other direction. So I'm going to hold the shift key down, and with the right arrow, I'm just going to walk this thing all the way over until I get to the edge of my panel, right about there. And now, if we look at this, let's go to the layers menu for 1 second and hide the guides real quick. Let's hide the guides so we can see what's going on. There is my main area, my center panels. There are my my flaps. There's my top, and there's my fold over flap. All right. So really, if you take a look at my sample over here, with the exception that I don't have the folds indicated, which is a step later on. I have everything I need right here to build this thing, and we're on target to do this. All right. One thing I noticed about this is it probably just has to move over one. There we go. Okay, that's good. All right, now what I need to do is I need to create this guy right there, the glue flap. All right, and what I'm doing is I'm working in a direction down. I'm going from the top down to the bottom. We're going to get into a more difficult area down at the bottom. But again, it's not that difficult. It's actually very easy to do. You'll see when we get to it. So, all right, before we do this, the glue flap, side glue flap, is 12¼ inches tall by 1.25 inches high. So again, come over and get your regular rectangle tool, and you're going to click. And what you're going to do here is the height is 12.4, right? 12.4, 12.4, and the width is 1.25, which is 1¼ inches. So it's 1.25, and hit OK. And there it is. Look at that. There's my glue flap. I'm just going to click on this guy. I'm going to bring it up until I get it aligned properly. I'm going to move it in until it's just a touch over, just like that. Just a tiny bit over top of. There's a reason that I'm overlapping these shapes. And in a little while, when I get to the point where I'm going to create my actual die line, I'll explain to you why I'm doing it. But for the time being, just understand that I am overlapping these shapes ever so slightly. You can tell. Look at the weight of that line. 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 Everywhere that it's overlapping, the line is thicker. Okay? Everywhere that it's overlapping, the line is thicker. And as a matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could select all of these guys, and I can go to my Align panel. All right, let's see here. Oh, that's not the right one. Here we go, the Align panel. And I can align them all to the bottom, and actually now they should be, yep, now they're perfectly aligned. Okay, so now what I need to do is I also need to taper these because they get tapered as well. So once again, to taper them, direct selection tool, because the direct selection tool allows me to select individual anchor points. So I click on that one right there, and notice that that one is white, it's not selected. That one is white, it's not selected. That one is white, not selected. That one is red with a little red dot there, indicating that that's the selected anchor point. And I again go to my 4 little arrows in the lower right corner of my keyboard, and I'm going to click on the down arrow about 12 times. I did it 14 times. Now I'm going to come over and I'm going to click the other one on the other end. And again, all of the others now are open. They're white. And the one down at the bottom is red, and it's got the little red dot next to it. That's the one that's selected. I'm going to use the arrow key, the up arrow. There's one that goes up, one that goes down, one that goes right, one goes left. The up arrow key, and I'm going to bring it up. There we go. And now I have my glue piece. So I have all of this done. All that's left is for me to build this bottom stuff right here. Let me go back to my layers panel, and let me bring my guides back because I'm going to be needing my guides shortly in order to see what's going on here. Now, I'm going to zoom in on this area just a little bit. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm actually going to be building these things in here. And then as I build them, I'm going to move them into position. Okay, so what I have to do now, keep in mind that each one of these panels are 4 inches wide. That's 4 inches, that's 4 inches, that's 4 inches, that's 4 inches. That means even though these things are carved up the way they are, they still are based on a 4-inch piece, a 4-inch piece, a 4-inch piece, and a 4-inch piece. So don't be fooled by this. This is not as difficult as it looks. It's just a question of figuring out how to make these shapes modify to look the way they look. That is where this guy comes into play, and this guy. I'm going to use this guy and a couple of additional shapes to create these shapes right down here. And when I get done with them, they will be shaped exactly the way they look right down there. And you'll see how to do it, and it'll be very easy. So let's start from left to right. Left is easy. I'm going to come over here, double click on my rectangle tool, and if you take a look, it's giving you measurements. It's telling you that it is 1 inch high by 1.5 inch wide. Okay, so 1.5 inch by 1 inch, and hit OK. And there I have my little shape. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little shape and I'm going to move it into proximity here, and I'm going to select both of these objects. Now I need my align panel here, so let me find my align panel, and actually let me bring my align panel out for a minute, because I will be using this align panel a little bit to do this. So what I want to do here is, with both of these objects selected, I want to align both of them to the bottom. Okay, and I want to make sure that they're both aligned to the horizontal center. And did you see the move? They move to the horizontal center. That point and that point are perfectly aligned, and they're both aligned on the bottom. Now I'm going to nip this piece out of here using the Pathfinder panel. So I go to the Pathfinder panel right here, and my Pathfinder panel, I can unite this, which won't work, or I can go minus front. Now the important thing to understand is, if you're going to use minus front, then this object has to be in front of that object, and it is, because I created this object before, and then I created this object next. Before I actually go to the trouble of doing that, though, I'm going to click on this shape right here, and I'm going to go Edit Copy. So what I did was I made a copy of that shape to the clipboard, because I'm going to need that same shape for this, this, and this. So now I have that, and I can actually go back in and paste it in, and I can work on the next one. Okay? So I'll go back and select both of these guys, and I happen to know that I want this guy right here to minus front. Now watch what happens when I click minus front. Oh, well, we got two intersecting paths. I guess it's not intersecting. That's probably what it is. There we go. Now it probably will intersect. Let's try it now. Oh, hold on. Let's try it now. Let's try it and see if that does it. Why is it not intersecting? They are intersecting. Let's... Let's see. You know what? Let me try this. Hold on. Let me try the shape builder. Let me see if the shape builder will do it. Let's see here. No, this should work. Please select two intersecting paths. Why is this not intersecting? I don't quite understand this. Let me make this thing red. Let me see if I can figure this out. All right, so make that red. Okay, and let's make this blue. There we go. Okay, so we have those two shapes. Now we select them. Why is that doing that? What is the problem? How weird is that? You know what? There's another way. Let's try this. Okay, let's try this now. Click on that. Let's get the direct selection tool. There we go. We're in business. There we go. I'm not exactly sure why I had to do this, but for some strange reason, the thing just did not want to. Now let's click on that guy right there, and let's make that white. Yeah, for some weird reason, it just wanted to fight me. But you should be able to just make that 4x4, and you should be able to make that 1.5 by 1. And you should be able to nip that thing right by using that right there, the minus front. As a matter of fact, hopefully the rest of these will work out. Matter of fact, in order to guarantee that they do, I think I'm going to recreate the 4x4 and not use the one that I pasted. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me take this guy and let me drag it over closer to the piece. And let me move over and let me put it into position. So I'm bringing it into here, and I'll bring it over until it's about close. Right about there is good. And let's bring it down until it goes off, and let me bring it up. Bum, 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 bum. There we go. That's it. That should do it. Probably a little bit high. That should do it, I think, right there. Okay, let's go View, Fit, Artboard, and Window. and see where we are with this. See where this is beginning to take shape. Okay, so let's zoom back in over here. Now we've actually got 2 more to go, because one of them we're just going to recreate by flipping it. So in other words, we don't really have to make this one. We just need to make this one. Once we make this one, I can flip it and use that over there. And then we have to make this one. So here, to make this one, what I'm going to do is click here, and I'm going to start off by making the 4x4. All right, so this is 4x4. Okay, 4x4, and hit OK. There's my 4x4. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the process of modifying this thing to look like that. All right, so now what I need here is I need one that is 2.16 by 1.4. Okay? So again, click. This one is going to be wide 2.16 by 1.4 and hit OK. And there it is. Now, you might be saying to yourself, you know, why these numbers, Bill? Well, we were given this, this box, and it's our job to recreate this box. So we're assuming that the box is the correct box for the project that we're working on. So it's our job to recreate the box. And what I'm doing here is I'm showing you, how to go about recreating this box. All right. So now this one here is going to just come over to the corner, right, like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these guys, and I'm going to use the align object to align them both to the horizontal left-hand side. And then I'm going to also align them to the bottom like that. Okay, so now I have the 2 basic shapes that I'm beginning to understand how I'm going to create this guy right here. There's a problem though. There's also an area which is 2 inches. There's a diagonal line that I have to create, and it's 2 inches. So how do I figure that out? Well, probably a bunch of ways, but the easiest way that I can think of is to simply come in here and create another box, and this is going to be a box which is 2 inches wide. 2 inches wide, okay, by 1 1/4, and hit OK. And now watch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this box, and I'm going to bring that box over here, and I'll align that box, okay? So you can see right away that now I have a guide that's going to help me get this box to angle the way I want it to angle. All right? So we'll leave that alone for a minute. Now, what do I got to do here? I have to create a couple of excuse me, I have to create a couple of points so that I can angle this thing. This is where my my pen tool comes into play. The pen tool, there is a regular pen tool, and you can draw with the pen tool, but you also have the add anchor point tool and the delete anchor point tool. Whenever you have a shape like this, those are paths. And if I want, I can come in here anytime I want, and I can place an anchor point anywhere that I want on that shape. Well, I need to place an anchor point somewhere in here, and I need to place an anchor point somewhere in here so I can taper this to look like that. So I'm not going to make a big deal out of this. I'm simply going to get the point. I'm just going to click any old place right there. Oh, I didn't get it. I have to click right on that line. Sometimes it's hard to get on the line. There we go. See the little anchor point I put there? I'll do the same thing over here. I'm going to come over here, click on there, and there I have my little anchor points. Those are my 2 anchor points. Now watch this. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get the delete anchor point tool. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to click on that one right there. Now you can see I'm beginning to head in the proper direction here. Okay? So what I want to do with this now is I want to get my my direct selection tool, and I want to start by clicking on that anchor point right there. And then with the right arrow key, I'm holding the shift key and the left arrow key, I'm going to start moving this over until I get close to here. Then I'm going to slowly move it into position, and I'm going to move it up until it's sitting on that corner. Then this guy right here, I am actually going to do 2 things. I'm going to stop. I'm going to click on this one first to select this one first. I'm going to click on that point like that, And I'm going to use my left arrow key to move it over until it hits where that other little rectangle is, right there. Okay? Now I can actually delete this because I don't need it anymore. See, it was just a guide. So now you see what I'm doing here is I'm actually rebuilding the shape of this. This, if I take this thing out of the way, all right, which I don't want to do because, well, I can actually do it. Okay, see what's happening? Let's go edit, undo. And now let me finish this. Let me get my direct selection tool and let me click on that point right there. And then I'm going to use my left arrow key and I'm just going to walk that point over until I reach that line. And right there, look at that. There it is. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to click on that, I'm going to hit delete, and there is my shape. Look at that. See how easy that was to do that? Just by using my basic shapes, scaling to size, using my direct selection tool, my add anchor point, and my delete anchor point to add 2 anchor points, delete 1, and then move them into position. And I end up with this. Now, the other thing is this. Watch. I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to reflect it along the vertical axes. See, it looks like that. Hit copy, and now I have 2 of them. See? So instead of me actually having to build more than one of these guys, I only got to build one. Let me see if I can get this thing to move over, and you'll see what I'm talking about. See? I only had to build one because this is the exact same thing, only it's in the other direction. So now I have both of them done. Let me move these things over into position. Let me get over to my mock-up, and let me come down to my mock-up bottom a little bit so I can get it over here. And let me start moving this over. As soon as I get them to where I can see them, there they are. I'm going to bring them down. Okay? And then bring them back up into position. There we go. I think that's good. That's good right there. And then move this over like this. Okay, right like that. And then deselect it, click on this guy, move it down, like that. There we go. And move it over to the left, all the way. Until it hits that edge right there. Okay, so now the other things that I have to do here, a couple of very subtle little things. What I want to do is these things butt into each other completely. So what I want to do is I want to actually give a little bit of a gap there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the direct selection tool. I'm going to click on that shape. I'm going to come over here and click on that anchor point, hold the shift key down, and click on that anchor point. So you see, instead of having just one selected, these are not selected. I have 2 selected. See that little thing there and that little thing there? I'm gonna hold the right arrow key and go it 3 or 4 times, just like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here with this one. I'm going to click on this guy, and I'm going to hold down the shift key, click on that one, hold the shift key down and click on that one, and go over this way about 4 times. And then I'm going to go to the top, and I think this one actually I don't have to do that with, and that one I don't have to do with because it's actually, see how they both overlap slightly? They probably overlap a little too much. Let me bring that one up like that. That's probably a little bit better. Oops, you know what? I'm screwing this up. I have the wrong, let me do this. I have to get the right selection tool. Yeah, let's go up. There we go. That's it. And just one more up, just like that. And one more, just like that. See, I have to have these overlaps. In a minute, you'll see why. When I actually get this done, you'll see why. It'll make sense to you. Let me just see if I can maybe remove the fill from them. Let's see where we're at here. Yep, they look good, except this one's got to come down just one. That's good. Okay, it's got to overlap just a tiny bit. This one here, I believe it is overlapping. I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, I think it is. I think we're good. Let's go to the View menu and let's fit this in window. There. Okay, so you can see, let me go to my guides layer and hide the guides. And you can see, okay, I've almost got it built. I just got that one little one in the middle to do. And then what I can do is I can start showing you how to deal with the turning this thing into a die line. And I'll show you how to create the bleed for it. And I'll show you how to go about creating the fold lines. And we'll be done. All right. So let me zoom back in here. And let me create my, move this over, move it up. There we go. And let me click on this and let me create a 4x4 inch, 4x4. And hit OK. There's my 4x4. All right, let me move it up a little bit so I can get it on. Let me see if I can maybe move this up a little bit so I can get it on screen. There we go. Okay. All right, so now this is 1.75 by 1.4. Okay? So again, click on that, and we're going to make this 1.75 wide, 1.75 by 1.4. Hit OK. There we go. And now what I'm going to do with this is, and it looks, I don't know, is that really one? Let me just check this. 1.75 by 1.4. Yeah, it is. It looks awful weird. Looks so different than this. Well, it's the same, so that's all there is. That's all I can say. So let's move this back into here, and let's get these guys aligned center. Go to align. Nope, wrong one. Let's see, where am I? Align panel. Where are you? What did I do with you? Here it is, right here. Line it to the middle and line it to the bottom. There we go. Okay, so now what we need to do here is we need to create this taper and that taper. So how we do this is simple. Again, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to use the Add Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to add an anchor point right here, or somewhere on this, and an anchor point here. Okay? Then I'm going to also add an anchor point somewhere down here. About right there would be good. Right? And about right there would be good. Okay? Then I'm going to click on the Delete Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to delete that anchor point. Whoops, I missed it. Thought I hit right on it. There we go. And let's click on that one. There we go. Okay, so you can already see, beginning to look right, but we're not there yet. So I'm going to now use this guy right here, which is my direct selection tool. And I'm going to start off by clicking on that little anchor point right there, and I'm just going to use the left arrow key, and I'm going to move that little anchor point until it's sitting right where it belongs there. And I'm going to click on that little anchor point, and I'm going to move that one until it sits right where it belongs right there. Okay? Now, we're going to do the same thing with this. Direct selection tool, click on this anchor point right here, and we're going to start moving that anchor point over, and I'm actually going to move it over. This is the left, I'm moving the left anchor point, the left arrow key, and I'm going to move this thing in until it goes straight along that line right there. And it's going to have to come down 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Nope, actually, that's pretty good right there. Right there's good. Now I'll do the same thing over here with this one. Click on that. Start with the right arrow key, and I'm right arrow keying it over, bringing it over. Actually, let it go quickly. Bring it over until it goes vertical, straight, right there. And then up. And now I'm going to click on this guy and delete it. And there it is. There's my shape. Okay? I hope you got that. I don't think it's that difficult, and I think you could do it. So let's go to the View menu, and let's fit this in Window. And now I'll move this out of the way. Let me take this last piece, click on it. Let me drag it over to here. Place it right in the middle there. Let's go to this. Zoom in, There we go. And let's bring my guides back. Here's my guides. There we go. And this here, I'm going to move it up. Right about there. And I think I probably, let's hide the guides, see what we got. I think I have to move it over one that way and maybe move it up one like that. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. Let's go to the view menu, let's fit artboard and window. So this is what we have, and if you take a look at this, it's very close. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, it's pretty much on the money. That's it. That's the piece. So the idea now is that we have this box made. So what I want to do is I want to create the die. I don't want to lose this box because I put a lot of work into it, and I'm going to keep this in case I mess up at some point, which I'm not going to do. But just for the sake of argument, I'm going to make sure that I don't mess up by actually saving an original on this. I'm going to marquee this whole thing. Come down and marquee the whole thing. So now the whole thing's selected. I'm going to go edit copy, and then I'm going to lock the box layer, hide the folds layer and the bleed layer, choose the die layer, okay, hide that layer, and go edit, paste in place. On my die layer, I now have my duplicate of my piece. Here's the important thing. If you remember back to the assignment instructions, let me see if I can open them back up again. Actually, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's here. Hold on. I want to go back to this because this is what I just want to remind you of this. This is kind of important. So I want to just jump back to this for 1 second. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. Where are we at here? Here. Okay. Hold on. Make artboard. Create a layer. Create another layer. Position your artwork. Dash line. These also required. Hold on. One, two. Where was it? It says that this has to be one single piece. That's what I wanted to go back to, but I'm not finding it for some reason. I don't know why I'm not. Let's see here. Okay, I can't find it. Somewhere here it says it. For some reason, I'm just not seeing it. Anyway, the bottom line is this has got to be one individual piece. Okay, the way it is right now, there are all these little individual sections. But the die is one continuous outline. That's what a die is. So by selecting this whole thing, and by coming into our Pathfinder panel right here, and by clicking this Unite, okay, with it all selected, watch what happens. There. Now, you see what it did? It turned this, let's go Edit Undo, so I can show you this. All these individual pieces, by selecting all of them and clicking, right, I now have my die. That is my die. That is what you want to produce. It's very important that you produce this way, okay? Now, again, just so that you understand, I still have, I'm going to hide the die layer, I still have my box here because I made a duplicate of it, okay? So I've saved the box layer for emergency, but we don't need that anymore. This guy right here is what we need. This guy right here is going to help me generate my bleed. That's what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create my bleed from this, okay? So this is my die layer. I'm going to select the die layer, all right? There we go. And I'm going to go the Object menu. Now, again, I'm getting ready to make my bleed. So I'll go to the Object menu. I'm going to go to Path. I'm going to go to Offset Path. And I'm going to set my offset. See, I already did this before on my other one. But look at what I've written here. 0.125 inch. 0.125 inch. That's equal to 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to offset this line by 1/8 of an inch. 0.125. I hit OK. Do you see it? You see the offset? I'm going to click on that. You see a little square here? I'm going to click on that. I'm going to drag that up. Now it's on the bleed layer, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the stroke forward, and I'm going to change the color to red because the bleed is always indicated in red. Hit OK. Now watch when I deselect this. I have, and let me zoom in on this a little bit so we can see what's happening. Okay, I have my my dye layer. I now have my bleed layer. Okay, so those are the two things that you have to have. It's very simple, not a problem to do. Very simple, just how I did them. If you do it this way, it'll be perfect. Go to back to my layers panel. I'm going to bring my guides back. Now the only thing that's left for me to do is to create my folds, and then I'm done. And then the next step, you're going to save this and you're going to create your mock-up, okay? And that mock-up is going to be where you're placing your elements, and maybe tomorrow I'll go over that because again, I'm not really ready to go over that. I'll probably do it tomorrow. So let's go to the fold layer, all right? And I'm going to lock the dye layer and I'm going to lock the bleed layer. So now I have my fold layer, all right? What I'm going to do with this is you get on the fold layer. There we go. I'm on the fold layer. And what I'm going to do is I don't need that anymore, I don't think. And I don't need that anymore, I don't think. And I don't need that anymore, I don't think. Okay, what I do need is a stroke layer, though. Let me bring this, the stroke panel. Let me bring the stroke panel out. All right, so the folds have to be a dashed line. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my regular old line segment tool, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click. I'm going to hold the shift key down, and I'm just going to drag straight down to about there, and I have a stroke. And what I'm going to do is set the stroke to 1 point. I'm going to click on dashed line, and I have it set to 4x4. It says 4x2, but if you really want to know the truth, I don't think 4x4 or 4x2 shows very well. So I made it 4x4 instead of 4x2. And I don't mind if you do that. What's important is that you can actually see this. Now, this is set to red. I don't want it to be set to red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to blue just so I can see it. All right. Now watch when I deselect this thing, and I'm going to go to my layers, and I'm going to hide my guides for a second. There you go. Can you see what I got now? I have my, you see my fold. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go edit, copy, edit, paste in place, and I'm just going to walk it over, holding the shift key down. I'm just going to walk it over until it reaches the edge of the next panel, which is right there. There it is. Actually got to move it over just a slight bit more. There we go, like that. There we go. Now, if you want, what I can do here is I can select both of these guys and go edit, copy, edit, paste in place. And now what I can do is click on this one, and I can hold down the shift key, and I can bring that one over until I reach this point right here. Right there. Right there. Okay, not quite far enough. Let me go a little bit further. There we go. And this one here, I'm going to click on that, hold down the shift key, and I'm going to bring that one over here. Don't forget, this is important. Let me get this over there, and then I'll explain this to you. Don't forget that, I went too far with it. Let me bring it back just a bit. There we go. Okay, this is the glue tab. That glue tab is actually going to fold. So it's very important that you put a fold on that. There's your front panel. And again, I'm just going by the assumption that you'll make this the front panel. Any of these could be the front panel. But actually, if you really want to know the truth, this is probably the front panel. That's a side, that's a back, that's a side. Or that's actually a back, side, front, side. That's probably what it is. That's probably the back, side, front, side. Okay? That's probably the right way, because you'd probably want that thing to open up back instead of open up to the front. Okay, so that would be the back, side, front, and side. Okay. So what are we left with? We're left with creating just a couple more fold lines, and we're done with this. So once again, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get my line tool. Now, the important thing to understand is you've got this line tool set to a dashed line of 4x4, and you've got it set to blue. So that means if I come over here and if I click right at that point right there, let me get right to the point where I need it to be. Right there. Hold down the shift key and walk it over to about there. Right? Let me get it right there. There I have my next fold area. And if I come over here again with the line tool, and if I place my cursor right there, let me get it in the right place, right there. Hold down the shift key, bring it over to there, there. Now this one here, I'm just going to go straight on, right on across. Hold down the shift key, and I'm just going to walk that thing straight across. And I think I'm a little low on it, so I'm going to walk it up a touch to get it in the right position. I got to move it up just a bit. Right about there is good. There we go. Okay. There it is. And I'm going to come over here with the line tool, and I have one more to do right here. Hold down the shift key and drag that over to there. And now I have my completed package layout. That is what you need to do. All right. Now, let me just quickly go back into here for a second, and let me go to my layers panel, and let me hide the sample. And here's your folds. Watch. There's your folds. Okay. This is why it's important for you to use these layers, because now you got your folds on its own layer. And you have your die line. There's your die line. Okay, and the die line's on its layer. And here is your bleed. And your bleed is on its layer. So now you have all three of these guys on their own unique layer. And if you go back to your sample, all right, and let me just see if I can zoom this over a little bit so you can see this. If you just visually take a look at what I did here, and compare it to the way that looks, I think you're going to see that it's actually, I'd say, right on the money. I mean, that looks exactly like what that looks like right there. Okay? I'm done. I hope you like this. I hope this works for you. I hope you'll have no trouble doing this. I really think this is the easiest way to do this project. I truly do believe that. And I think you should actually try to do it this way. It is real easy, and it is real exact. All right? So you're ultimately going to be now coming in here, and you're going to be taking your elements. Now I've started building mine. Mine are not ready to be shown. I'll probably try to show you this tomorrow if I can. But see, I've actually come in here and I've actually started creating some elements for my package. Like here, for instance, is my logo. And you can see I've set up my labels for my bottles. Okay, these are my labels for my bottles. This is how I've colored my logo. So my logo is going to be in this color. I'm probably going to have a box background of these colors here. I'm going to be using these colors for text. And you can see on the back of my logo, you know, I have my government warning. I have my produced by. I have my barcode at the bottom here. I have 3% alcohol by volume, approximately 7.7 standard drinks, preservative 220 added, and this is the Shiraz Cabernet 2004. So I've got all the required information for my label. This same information is going to be reconfigured and utilized on my package. I probably will incorporate this glass somewhere, and I'll probably, let's go to File, Open, and let's see if I can show you some of the other things that I did here. Where are we at? Box graphics, is that it? Let me see. What happened? Here we go. Ignore. Hold on. What do we got here? What's going on? No, that's not right. Wrong one. I'm not sure where I have it. Hold on, let me see here. Let's see, Grapevine. Here we go. Grapevine elements. Okay, so here's another element that I have. I'm opening these up. There, this is another element that I'm working on. I haven't quite worked it out. That's probably something that's going to go on one of my packages. I also have these. I could use these instead. I haven't really, I haven't really thought out my entire wine package. Just so that you understand, let me go to File, Open Recent. Let's see, box graphics. See, this is the box that I actually did. Ignore it. This is the actual box that I did. So this is my box, and what I'm doing now is I'm just doing the wine box because you're doing the wine box. So I'm just kind of doing it on the fly. So that's why I really am not ready to show you the elements other than what I got here in the raw state. So by tomorrow in my class, I'll work on them tomorrow. We'll work on some of this tomorrow. There's one more thing. I have a little bit of time left. So there's one more thing that I do want to do here that I think you're going to find very interesting. I have these pictures of wine bottles. One of the things that I'm going to show you how to do, and I think you probably should learn how to do this because I think you'll find it to be very valuable, is to learn how to create a 3D rendering. And to do that, you have to create a profile. And I'm going to show you how to do this. It really don't take too long to do this. And I'm going to try to do it right now and see what we come up with. Let me get this over here. Now, I could pick any one of these bottles are really good, but I think I like this bottle right here. That's the one I think I'm going to go for. So I'm going to move this thing over a little bit. Now, the idea behind doing this is, let's go to the View menu, and let me go to Rulers, and let me go Show Rulers. The idea behind this is that you have to create a profile to do a 3D revolve. I don't know whether you've ever done a 3D revolve before or not, but you go to the Effect menu and go to 3D and Revolve. But in order to do that, you have to first have a profile. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to actually build a profile on this thing. So to build a profile, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my rounded rectangle, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to start off by building a shape that looks like that. And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to, oh, it's got no color on it. Yeah, let me go to my Layers panel. Yeah, okay, so there's a profile. Okay, we're good. All right, let me put, first of all, a stroke on it of black. There we go. I don't want, oops, nope, wrong one. I want that off. There we go. Okay, so now I have a stroke of black. There it is, okay? Now I'm going to come back in here again, get this rectangle again, and I'm going to drag and make another rectangle a little bit bigger, like that, and I'm going to move it down slightly, just about like that. That's probably good right there, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pen tool, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to come down to here, come over to here, a little bit further out, hold down the Shift key, come here, come to here, and then come to here, and then come to here. Okay, so now I have my cap. There are my cap. Those are the 3 pieces for my cap. I'm going to come in here to my Pathfinder panel, and I'm going to combine them into one single piece. Now watch what happens. I'm going to hide this layer. You see what I got so far? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare this to make it into a cap. To do that, I'm going to come over to where the eraser tool is, and I'm going to get the scissors tool. I'm going to come over to my guide, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom and click again. Now watch, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click on that edge, and I'm going to delete it. Now what I have basically is I have 3 elements that I turned into one shape, and if you look at this, it's an open shape. See, it's open. There's my shape. Okay, now let me bring back my tracing elements again. Let me go View, Zoom out, and let me move this up a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build the bottle. Now the important thing to understand is what I'm doing is I'm building a profile. I'm building just one edge because that one edge is going to end up rotating and becoming a 3D rendered bottle. Okay? So now what I got to do is I have to come in here and I have to create the contour of this bottle right here. So I'm going to get the pen tool. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click and I'm going to come down to about here. and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, and I'm going to create a line that falls right like that. I'm going to come up and I'm going to click on that point right there, and then I'm going to carefully come around to about here, and I'm going to drag this thing until I get a nice curved shape that follows along the contours of that bottle. I don't know how well I'm doing. It's a little hard for me to see it, but I think I'm pretty good. Let's see here. I guess that's pretty good. Then I'm going to click on this again, and I'm going to come all the way down to here, okay? And then I'm going to come around like about like this, because I want it to be somewhat rounded, a little bit on the rounding side, a little bit more like that maybe. And then I'm going to click again, and I'm going to just come over here, right to here. There. And then actually double click on that. There we go. And now let's see what we got. Right, it goes to where? It goes to there. Okay, so then I want to come back here at this point. I want to click on that point, and I want to bring it over to that guide. Okay, so now look at what I got. Let's go to the trace, hide the trace. Do you see what I got? I have a bottle shape right here, and I have a cap shape right there. So what I want to do now is I want to bring back my trace, and I want to select my cap, make sure that the stroke is forward, and I want to use my eyedropper tool to maybe pick up a nice red color, like that color right there, okay? But I don't want it to be a fill, I want it to be a stroke. Then what I want to do is I want to click on this, and I want this to be kind of a nice green bottle shape. So something like that, maybe a little bit of blue to it. That's probably pretty good for now. I'll adjust it, okay? So now watch this. So I'm going to come to my layers panel, hide the profile, okay? So the only problem that I have right now is I created this cap first. I created this thing second. So what I want to do is I want to select this thing, and I want to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Now this cap is sitting in front of that bottle. I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to go to the Object menu. Go to the Effect menu, go to 3D, and I want to go to Revolve. And I want to move this over so you can see it. I'm going to hit Preview. And look at that. It revolves into a beautiful bottle. Isn't that incredible? Now, I got all these different settings. I got front, back, left, right, top, bottom. I'm going to hit front so I can just set it to the front. Perfect. Look at that. Beautiful bottle. And I mean, I can actually take this thing and I can rotate this thing around any way that I want. Now, what's happening is because this thing is not grouped, I'm getting this problem where they move apart from one another. But that's not a real problem because I could go back in and group them and they will stay together better. Or I can actually hit OK. I accidentally hit undo. Well, so let me do it. Let's go to Effect. Let's go to 3D and let's go to Revolve. And let me hit Preview. There we go. And let me hit front, and let me hit OK. Okay, so there's my bottle. Let's go to the View menu, and let me go to let's go to Guides, hide Guides. There we go. All right, so there's my bottle. There's my Revolve bottle. All right, now what I'm going to ultimately do with this thing is I'm going to take this Chateau Vineyards and this Chateau back label, and I'm going to apply them to my model. But I'm not going to do that now. I'm actually going to do that later on. I just wanted to show you, though, very quickly how to go in and how to revolve a bottle, because this is something that you're going to want to do. Now, here's the deal. If you look at this bottle and say to yourself, well, it's nice, but I'm not crazy about the colors very much, you can always do this. You go to the Window menu, and you could go to Appearance, okay? You can go to Appearance, and you could come in here and select those two, and let's see what we got here. Actually, whoops, oh boy, hold on. Here we go. All right, let me click on this guy here. There we go. Okay, now, what you want to do with this is you want to just simply change the color of it. You can come in here and double-click on this, and you can play around with the color bring the color down until it's more like a wine color, like a wine glass color. Let's see if I can get something that's better. That's probably better right there. There you go. That looks more like a wine bottle. And if I wanted to, I can click on this guy, and you can come into 3D Revolve here, and you can re-revolve this thing, or you can just come in here and double click on this. There's no color in there, so I would double click here, and maybe we'd make this thing like a golden color. Let's try making this something like a golden color. Let's see what that would look like. I need something that's more gold. That's probably pretty good. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Okay? So there is a wine bottle, and eventually what we're going to be doing is, and I'm going to save this for the time being, file save. I'm going to save this because tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to work on putting the labeling on this thing. And I'm also going to work on producing my go back to my die line. Let me go back to my die line here. So let's go back to the one that I'm working on right here. Okay, so here's my die line. So ultimately what we're going to be doing tomorrow is we're going to be preparing this guy for a mock-up. So what I would do with this is I'll probably do a little. I still got about 15 minutes, so I'll probably do a little bit of this right now. So I'm going to hide the fold layer real quick, hide the bleed layer real quick, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Let me create a layer die right beneath this. Okay, I'm going to call this graphics. Graphics. Okay, so there's my graphics layer. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a large rectangular shape. All right, and let's create this big old rectangular shape, something along the lines of this. Let's make it something like that. That's probably pretty good. Now let me go in here and let me start off by doing this. Let's go to Chateau Vineyard and let me grab this. Let me grab a little color of this color right there. Let's go edit copy. All right, let's go back to my die line. Let's go edit paste. Where are we at here? There we go. Okay, and now that I have my color here, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to your, well, actually, is that in there? I guess it already went in. Let me see. Create new swatch. I guess that's the color. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually delete that now. I'm going to select this guy right here, and I'm going to fill it with that color. There we go. Fill it with that color. All right, now, one of the things that I want to do with this is I want this thing to be for very specific areas. I think I'm actually pretty close on this. Let me just move this over a little bit and see. Yeah, that's okay. Let me go over this way a little bit. And that's okay. That probably is good right there. The problem I have with this is I don't really need them to be colored, although I guess it really wouldn't hurt. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to take this guy right here, my die. Let me get my die. Let's go to my die. And let's select both of these two. And let me come in here and let me go Object. Let's go Clipping Mask. Make. There. Now what I have basically is I've applied that color to everywhere. Now let me do this. Let's go edit, undo, make clipping mask. Let me copy this first. Let me copy this. Edit, copy. There we go. And now let's do it. Object, clipping mask, make. Boom. And let's go edit, paste, and place. Boom. There. Okay, so now you can see, here's what I did, just so that you know. I have that blue color over everything, over the entire project, except for the glue area. I have it only a small area on the glue area, and I have it bleeding a small area onto the fold area. You don't have to have it go all the way to the edge of that little tuck flap. You only have to go a little bit ways up onto the tuck flap. And you definitely do not want that color to go all the way over your glue, because the glue flap has glue here, and the printing ink will basically get in the way of the glue. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. Now, this means that my entire package is going to be this blue color. Okay. Now, I only did that because, let me bring the bleed back, but I don't, I guess I want to see the folds. There we go. Can we see the folds? It's actually because the folds are beneath that. Let me bring the folds all the way up to the top. There we go. Now you can see the folds. There you go. Okay. So you see how this is beginning to set up? Now, it's the next thing I would be doing with this is I would be starting to bring my elements on. So I'm going to think that this area here is my front. So let me go to Chateau Vineyard. And let me select this thing. Let me go Object, Lock, Selection. And let me grab all this other stuff. And let me see. Maybe it's locked. Hold on. Let me see here. What's going on here? Why is it not allowing me to select Object, Unlock All? Oh, I know why. Because it's grouped. Object, Ungroup. There we go. Okay, that's why. Object, Lock, Selection. There we go. All right, now let's click on this stuff. There we go. Now we got it. Edit copy. All right. And let's go back to my die line wine box. Let's go edit paste. There it is. It's pasted. Now I'm going to bring this thing on to what I believe is the front, which is right here. There's my front. Okay. And that's going to go like that. Now, again, I have a lot of space here. So what I would do with this thing is I'd probably come in here and I would probably open this thing up a little bit. I'd probably take this and this element here, and I'd probably open it up somewhat, bring this thing down somewhat, bring this thing down somewhat, maybe bring it way down to the bottom. Okay, let me see. Let me go view, zoom out. All right, bring it down. All right, and then maybe move this thing down. And then these elements would probably be made bigger. Let's go 120, 120, hit OK. That's good. That works. Let's click on this. Let's double click on that. Let's make that like maybe 150, 150. Hit OK. That's good. Now let's get this guy. And let's make this thing view. I'm sorry. Here we go. Zoom. Here we go. This size here, 150. Hit OK. Probably could be bigger. 150. OK. No, that's too big. So let's bring it back to 70. Hit OK. That's probably pretty good. Let me bring it down to the bottom. There we go. Okay. So there's my front. There's my front with some front elements on it. Now let's take a look at what we got back here. So I got this stuff here on this side. Let me go Object, Lock, Selection. And let me grab these elements here. And let's go Edit Copy. All right. And let me go to my die line. And let me go Edit Paste. There we go. And this guy here is going to go on the back. All right, and I would basically then just take these elements here, and I would probably, Control Z, hold on, let me, Object, Lock, Selection, and I would take these elements here, and let's make them 130, and hit OK. There we go, that's much better. Let me bring that down to about, I'll tell you what, let me bring the guide down. Bring the guy down to about there. So let me bring this stuff down to about there. There we go. And then this, let's move this stuff down. Move all this stuff down here. Like that. That's probably pretty good. I don't know what that is, that other thing. What is that? I guess it's nothing. And then this stuff here, that's, oh, geez. You know what? Oh, I see what the problem is. That's that thing. That's what that is. That's what that is. Let me fix that. There we go. Okay, let me lock that layer. Go to my folds. Lock it. There we go. So this thing here is probably good right there. This stuff here, the government stuff, probably should go way down to the, oh, Control Z. See, I got to bleed, lock that too. What? Hold on. I guess it's because, yeah, it's on that layer. Okay, so I want this stuff here to be put on, oh boy, it's the wrong one. Click on that, and like that. There we go. And let me move that onto my graphics layer. There we go. Graphics layer. Okay, and let me move the graphics layer up above the die layer. There we go. Now we're in business. Now this thing here, and this thing here is going to go down. Go down to the bottom. All the way down to about there. Maybe align. There we go. Move it over slightly. There we go. Okay. File, save, and view guides, hide guides. There we go. And now you can see view. I don't want to zoom. I'm just going to move it, I guess. That's good. There you go. Okay. See, in a very short few moves, I've got my box half laid out. Okay, so the key to this whole thing is that, you know, you're going to start putting these elements into place, and I'm not done with this. I mean, I still have things to do. Like, you know, this is done, but I have to come in here now, and maybe I might work with that wine bottle. Maybe I put that wine bottle on the side. Maybe what I'll do is, I don't know whether I shut it or not, but let me file open. I'm thinking possibly of using my, where was it? These box graphics. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I might play with them tomorrow. You know, the box graphics, I'll probably incorporate them somehow. Oh, again, it's this wrong one. Anyway, I don't know where it is right now. Let's see. Grapevine. Here it is. There's my grapevine. I may incorporate that. Let's see what else. Let's see what we got here. Grapevine elements. Yeah, I may incorporate some of this. Let's see where the other one is. Wine glass. I think it's, what's that one? Let me just see. Yeah, that's the one. This guy right here. Let me just see if I can do this. Edit, copy. Okay, let me go to my Chateau Vineyards. This one. Here we go. Edit, paste. There we go. Kind of cool. Let me move it over to the side here. And move this thing over to the side. And let's see what that looks like. Looks kind of cool. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. I like it. Might make it a little bit bigger. Let's see. Maybe make it just a little bit bigger. Okay. Looks kind of cool. I don't know. Anyway, this will give you an idea of where I'm heading with it. Let me go file save for now. Let's go edit, undo scale. Let me undo that scale there. And let me go file save. That's probably better to do it like that. I might just let it go like that. Or maybe just bring the whole thing up. Let me just see if I bring the whole thing up a little bit. Having all kinds of weird problems here with this thing because I'm not blocking my layers properly. I'm just rushing along with this. But anyway, this is basically what you're doing is you're preparing a mock-up for yourself. You're preparing a mock-up of your piece. See, now here again, I got this all out of position. I got to get it back in position here. There we go. That's probably okay. There we go. View, fit, artboarding window. There we go. So again, what you're trying to do here is, first of all, you're trying to build yourself a layout. You're going to lay out your box, and then what you're going to do is you're going to begin to put your graphics in place. And you can see I'm just beginning to do that right now. Probably what will happen tomorrow is I'll come back in tomorrow and we'll work more on this guy right here. The where are we at? Wine. No, well, I guess I shut it. The bottle. I'll actually work on the bottle, and then I'll show you how to put the labeling. I'll show you how to put the labeling on the bottle, and then maybe what I'll do is I'll add the bottle to the outside of the box. But anyway, that's tomorrow. That's what we'll be doing tomorrow. The most important thing, though, for you is two things. Number one, that you create your die line and that your die line looks like this. This is what your die line should look like. And you begin the process of preparing graphics for your box. I threw this together very quickly. I mean, this is not the greatest job, but just to give you an idea, though, of what I'm doing and how I'm approaching it, this is what I did. So that's what you need to do. This is part 2, and that would be considered part A. Okay? I hope you find this helpful. If you have any questions or anything at all, please feel free to give me a call. Send me an email. Give me a call. I will be here tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and I will continue working on this stuff at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.